Business Made Simple, hosted by Donald Miller, takes the mystery out of growing your business. Recent episodes like how to attract and retain top talent and how to make more money with your current products are straight fire. Listen to Business Made Simple wherever you get your podcasts. Jeremy, say what's up to Fire Nation and share something that you believe about becoming successful that most people disagree with.
Hey, John, great to be here. I would say most entrepreneurs think they need to have all the answers from day one. And really, you just need the vision, or not even the vision. You need to pick an industry that you feel like you would, fall in love with, that you want to be part of for the next 7 years. So really, that's it. You got to go out there, put yourself out there, learn from your customers, get feedback, constantly adapt, constantly pivot. And you'll ultimately find the right solution, the right results. But most people feel like they need that information from day one before they start, and you really don't. You just need to start. That's the main thing.
So, Jeremy, today we're talking about how to build $100 million brand in just 5 years. So let's start at the beginning. What's your backstory?
Yeah, so I was a documentary filmmaker in college. And I graduated from Boston University, and I won the Audience Award at the 2006 Vail Film Festival, and I thought that was going to be my career. And I remember I was on the top of the mountain in Vail, Colorado, and I looked at the audience, and half the room were these major celebrities that everyone's heard of, and half the room were these more struggling artists or more creatives. And I did an internal gut check, and I asked myself two questions. Number one, do I love what I'm doing? And number two, am I that good at it? And both answers were no. And I realized at that moment that this is not the career for me. So got back to college. I was a junior in college at this point. I wanted to figure out what I want to do with my career moving forward. And I thought maybe I could become an entrepreneur. I didn't really know that much about entrepreneurship. I never started a business. But right when I graduated college, I started my first business, mostly as a way to learn about what I was good at, what I enjoyed, what I wanted to do with my career. And I did several different startups, from starting a t-shirt company right out of college to starting a company where we partnered with celebrities and owned their social media presences and did product placement and YouTube videos, to all these kind of different things. And I ultimately found myself really super interested in the promotional product space for my first job out of college. And I am building brands. And I started swag.com in 2016, really trying to focus on today's buyer, the millennial, and giving them the best experience possible. Since we launched, we've grown over 100% every single year. Last year, we did over 30 million of sales. We're on track to do north of 60 million of sales this year. And we were recently acquired by Custom Ink, the leader in our industry, about 6 months ago.
So Fire Nation, we're going to be talking today about building $100 million brand in 5 years. Jeremy has just given you a little background of his backstory, but let's get really detailed into the specifics of how you got into this industry.
Yeah, so my first job out of college, I started working for this company called MV Sport. And they're a very large player in the promotional product space, specifically for collegiate apparel. And that was my first job when I was 22 years old. And I remember going to these different trade shows and seeing who the buyer was. And 12, 13 years ago when I was in the industry, the buyer was a much older buyer. And they did everything very manual: presentation decks, back and forth emails, phone calls to close sales. And you fast forward 10 years, and I had this aha moment that the industry is only getting bigger and bigger, but the buyer changed. And the buyer is no longer this 40, 50-year-old office manager. It's a millennial. And what do millennials want? They want to buy things a little bit differently. They want to streamline the experience. They don't want to talk to anybody. They would rather just be able to do it themselves. So I started trying to build swag.com focused on today's buyer. That was kind of the initial aha moment. And when we were starting, obviously we knew we wanted to go after the B2B, but there's so many different buyers within organizations, whether you're the marketing team or the sales team that wants to buy swag, or the office manager that's buying swag for the internal office and culture building, or the HR manager who's buying swag for onboarding new hires. There's all these different divisions within the company that buy it. So we had to really figure out who was the right buyer from the start and how could we expand. So we really started to go really in and focus on the office manager, because we figured that the office manager is really like the Trojan horse into the company, right? If they're buying 100 t-shirts, they're giving those t-shirts to all of the departments. Now, if every t-shirt says swag.com on the inner label, it's basically them introducing us to all these other departments that could be buyers. And we really started to go full force on the office manager in the first year. And now we're working with marketing teams and sales teams and every division within companies, but it really started from that understanding of how to get into the company.
Now, one thing that I really was kind of impressed by was the fact that you got this 4-letter domain, this 4letter.com, swag.com. Can you tell us a story behind that?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, the idea was we want to convert offline conversations to online purchasing. And I knew if I got in front of people and they saw my brand, they might not want to buy right then and there, especially if you're going after B2B buyers, right? That you might get in front of them and they might not have their event for 3 to 5 months. So I needed to be something super memorable. They discover us in January and they need to remember us in November when they're buying for their holiday gifting. So we figured swag.com, powerfully, super short, simple. It basically explains what we do. If you hear swag.com, you already know that we sell promotional products and promotional swag. So we want to get that name. And obviously, it's very expensive. So from the very beginning, we couldn't afford it. And we worked out a deal with the buyer that we would exclusively license the name for a 2-year period with the option to buy. So from day one, without any funding, without any money, we had this swag.com domain name that we could start going out to the market with. And we went to customers, they assumed that they've heard of us before. Our first customer was Facebook. They thought that they've heard of us before. The second customer, we kept, using that brand name to build upon itself. And now it's been, beyond effective, where people see an ad for us or they read about us or they read a blog post about us and then they just remember it. Their coworkers, their boss says we need swag. They just type directly into the browser swag.com. So we don't have to necessarily pay as much marketing as our competitors, to drive people to our site.
So you found the person who owned swag.com. What was the process of acquiring it?
It was a long process. They were asking initially like 1.2 million. It took us a while to negotiate it down and try to figure out how we can get it. Ultimately, the buyer, we were able to work out a deal where we would, license the name for a 2-year period with the option to buy it. That owner had a great deal. They basically, worst comes to worst, we couldn't afford it. Like the company failed, they would still retain ownership of the domain name. If things went well, we would ultimately buy it for the agreed upon price, and they would get a small percentage of our company. So we made a win-win for all people involved.
That's pretty impressive, Fire Nation. It makes me want to go back to 1996 when I was sitting in my bedroom thinking, I'm going to buy BostonRedSox.com, BostonCeltics.com, like all the sports teams that I liked, like across the channel. And then I was like, I don't have any money because I'm 16 years old. But you know what? Different time, different place, and different world. Let's talk about your customer target methods. I mean, you've obviously done a lot of things over the years, tested, tried a lot of different opportunities, advertising. I mean, of course, as you just mentioned, swag.com is such a good domain name. It kind of speaks for itself in a lot of areas. Talk about those target methods of your ideal customers.
Right. So in the very beginning, we were, knocking on doors, being traveling salesmen. That was like the first year. And that's really because we didn't really know the right platform to build. We didn't want to spend all this time building the platform and then customers don't want it. So we want to really engage with potential customers, learn what they're looking for, and ultimately, build it. So we went to different companies and we knocked on doors and we, made manual sales. And our strategy from the beginning was we considered ourselves logo hunters. So we wanted the big name brands so that if we could put the big logos on our website, people would just assume that we could obviously help them as well. So we went after Facebook, and then we got WeWork, and then Bravo TV, and we just did, manual sales in the beginning. The second year, it really transitioned. Now that we had the platform built, now we knew the right product to build, and we had those row of logos, we could change our marketing strategy. So we went really into paid ads. We felt like we were able to drive enough traffic to learn a lot more, but paid ads is very expensive. On Google, on Facebook, it's expensive. So we just want to do it enough that we can learn more, open up the pool of customers to our site, see what was broken, see what we could fix, see what we could make better. Then the third year became really about SEO. And really doing organic traffic and trying to figure out different pockets and different keywords that we could rank for. So our entire business, it's not always been one thing that's worked for us. It's constantly adapting and picking the right traction channel for the right period of time. And I think people have to realize that. Like if you start one way, doesn't mean it's going to work all the time. And if you do something that works great, it's not going to work. You might have to change it and pivot it and change your idea. So we're constantly adding new traction channels and figuring out different ways how to drive traffic and drive the right type of customer to our site.
And I love this evolution, Fire Nation. This is trying new things, testing new things, seeing what works, what doesn't work, being analytical, figuring things out. And we have a lot of things we're going to be talking about with the growth of this $100 million brand in just 5 years when we get back from thanking our sponsors. As an entrepreneur just starting out or looking to scale up, it can be tricky to know which advice to follow. And if you've been thinking about making an online course part of your business, the Thinkific Trends Report is one of the most important things you'll read this year. The team at Thinkific analyzed the top 20% of creators to discover what they're doing differently to make them so darn successful. In this report, you'll uncover why top creators are 2 times more likely to use communities, 3 times more likely to sell courses and bundles, plus learn why it's time to say goodbye to the hard sell. I can say after reading it that this report is chock full of insights you can immediately put into action today, because if you're still creating courses the same way you were 5 years ago, you might be missing out on some big opportunities. Discover which trends are powering the most successful creators in 2022, what their secrets are to growing their business, how they focus their time, and much more. Visit thinkific.com/firetrends. That's thinkific.com/firetrends. Customer expectations are at an all-time high, and making things easy is how you'll win. If you can accomplish easy, you'll turn one-time customers into lifetime customers. So how can you make things easy for your customers? It starts with knowledge, like having a 360-degree view of how your customers have interacted with your business in the past, what their buying preferences are, and how likely they are to become a repeat customer. But how do you gain these insights? With a HubSpot CRM platform, that's exactly what you'll get. Easy-to-use tools that give you and your teams the full picture of your customers. Just one example of how powerful having that full picture can be. Well, HubSpot's intuitive payment tools allow you to help your customers have a seamless purchase experience. With full access to payment data, your teams get the full customer story, meaning they can provide the best possible service. And with directly embedded payment links, your customers can quickly and easily purchase and pay from emails, live chats, and more. Learn more about how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. Jeremy, we're back, and just like I wanted the story of swag.com, every person, every company has that first customer story. Let's hear yours.
Yeah, so our first customer was Facebook. And how this happened is we knew we needed to have a big name brand that we wanted to have on the logo, on the homepage, where people come on and say swag.com. Oh, who do they work with? Facebook. So we had a friend who worked at Facebook who got us into the office. This is in the New York City office. Anybody can really get in if you have a connection. They have lunches there, etc. When my co-founder and I, Josh, went to the office, there was these big conference rooms. There's tons of them all over the place. And we just kind of set up shop. We went into one of the conference rooms. We put all of our swag items down. We're like a traveling salesman, and people would walk by and not know what was going on, but people stopped in. What are you guys doing? And we made our first sale that way, where somebody came by, they needed some t-shirts, they felt the quality of the products they were offering, and they wanted to do it with us. And that first sale, I think we made like 5% margin, but it wasn't about making money. It was about learning experience, making connections, and also, as we said, become logo hunters, really get that first logo. So we closed Facebook. The next day, we went to WeWork and we started talking to them. And when they asked us who else we work with, we said Facebook. And obviously, we don't lie, but that's true. But they didn't dig in a little bit deeper. But they figured that if we work with Facebook, clearly we could work with them. And then we signed on WeWork, and we kept doing that for the first few months to get those big blue chip companies on our site. And that's what I say. It's like the first year was all about learning the right product to build, but also it was about getting those initial logos. Because most people think you have to start your way from the bottom and work your way up. But that just takes too slow. So we want to start away from the top and work our way down. And if we had those big name logos, ultimately these smaller startups who come to our website will feel confidence in us.
So Fire Nation, I really love this first story experience. And I mean, this is the thing that I did as well. When I was first launching Entrepreneurs on Fire, I got a yes from some really big names of like, yeah, I'll be on your podcast at some point, but I'm busy this month, but I will lock it in. We'll do this for sure. Like, let's make it happen next month or the month after. So then when I would go to other guests, I'd always say, well, listen, I have so-and-so coming up on the show. I have this person locked in for a certain date and a certain time. And that is the reality I did. These people are like, well, if these people are being on the podcast, it makes sense for other people too as well. So you can really use and leverage truth in these scenarios when people are like looking for validation. And your growth trajectory, Jeremy, has been out of this world. I mean, $100 million in 5 years. Talk to us about that trajectory.
Yeah, the first year of the business, 2016, it was very manual sales. We did about 350,000 of sales. Then we launched the first version of our e-commerce site in 2017. We did about 1.1 million. 2018, the site's getting a little bit better, did about 3 million. 2019, the site did about 7.5 million. 2020 hits, and obviously very scary for the whole world, but for our industry, just imagine the promotional product industry, events, not happening anymore. Trade shows not happening anymore. People are leaving the office. So we had to really pivot and adapt and become the de facto place to allow companies to buy swag, warehouse it with us, and distribute it to individual addresses. So people who are engaging with the remote team and keeping that company culture thriving, even when no one's in the office, sending swag to that best customer if you're not going to see them at the trade show, sending swag to virtual event attendees to humanize the event, HR managers onboarding their new hires in the right way. Because no one was in the office, we had this amazing platform that would allow them to distribute that swag and engage. And we went from 7.5 million, and the whole industry is going down 20 to 40%. Our sales increased by 100% to 15.5 million. Last year, we did about 33 million. So we're really every year more than doubling, at least doubling. And this year, we're on track to break 60 million. This year.
Wow. I mean, Fire Nation, this is the thing where you need to adapt. You need to be able to adjust and be willing to say, what's happening right now in this world? It's like, what's happening right now? And then how do I become the best solution to a real problem? And the problems had changed in Jeremy's world. The problems changed in all of our worlds. And those who adjusted and pivoted to staying or becoming the best solution to real problems, those were the winners. So let's end with the importance of brands. I mean, especially in a crowded market, which of course, swag is a crowded market. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, when we started the business, people thought we were crazy. There's 30,000 promotional distributors. How are you different? I would have that conversation so many times. How are you different? What's going to separate you from everybody else? There's so many companies that sell promotional products. And our feeling was, well, we had a lot of ideas. We didn't necessarily know all the answers from day one. We knew we were going to learn. We knew we were going to pivot. We knew we were going to focus on today's buyer, build the best experience possible, making it easy for customers to find what they're looking for, design it, buy it in a matter of seconds, and then easily distribute swag to multiple different addresses at once. We knew we had this vision of making the experience better, but the brand plays a really big part in it. If everyone's being attacked by all these different companies and they're trying to get their business, we have to stand out. We have to be memorable. And that's what it takes me back to. Swag purchasing, especially B2B, it's not an impulse purchase. It's not you're buying a pair of shoes. It's nothing like that. You really have to stay on top of mind. When you get in front of them once, they have to remember you later on. And there was no company in our industry that had a really strong brand that was super memorable. And we figured that if we had that memorable brand and we could convert these offline conversations to online purchasing, it would really set us up for success. So we went all in on the brand, and not just the colors and the user experience, but the name itself. All of those things together really allowed us to win.
So Fire Nation, brand, be the brand, own the brand, use the brand in the different ways that you know are going to connect with your potential customers, clients, and avatars, and make that happen. And Jeremy, you shared a lot of value bombs today. Take the stage for a minute. Here's the microphone. Give us the one key takeaway from your entire story of growing your brand to $100 million, of everything we've talked about here today. What's the one key takeaway?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway as an entrepreneur, and it's something I used to mess up on, and I made many mistakes before I started Swag, and I learned from those mistakes. Everyone always thinks it's an overnight success, 5, 6, 7 years, you start a business and it just happens, but it's typically a lot of failures and learnings along the way. So if you're an entrepreneur, keep your head up. You're going to learn. It might not be this one. It might be the next one. It might be the one after that, but you'll ultimately get there if you keep learning and being open-minded to changing. I would say my biggest takeaway that I used for Swag that allowed us to really get out the door, previous startups, I used to overthink every single thing and think I had all the answers. And I think you really need to remove ego from being an entrepreneur. It's not necessarily you have the right answers. You want to get something out the door right away. You want to learn from your customers, pivot and make it better and keep learning. And I think if you have the mentality that you're either going to win or you're going to learn, you'll ultimately get there a lot faster.
So Jeremy, if Fire Nation wanted to connect with you, with your company, with your business, share those details, any call to action you might have, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sounds great. Yeah, please check us out at swag.com, swag.com, or reach out to me at jeremy@swag.com. We'll love to help you out. if you're looking for swag to buy for an event or a trade show, or you want to build custom boxes, you want us to warehouse it, you want to distribute it to multiple different addresses, you want to integrate into Zapier or APIs and automate the distribution of swag when it's a new hire's birthday or their 5-year anniversary, please reach out to us. We would love to help you out with all of your swag needs.
Fire Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you've been hanging out with JP and JLD today, so keep up that heat. Head over to eofire.com, type Jeremy in the search bar. The show notes page will pop up with everything that we've talked about here today. Best show notes in the biz. Of course, head over to swag.com. I'm actually looking at the site right now. I need to have some custom visors sent my way, so I'm checking that puppy out and see what he has going on for your next big shebang. And Jeremy, thank you, brother, for sharing your truth, your knowledge, your value with Fire Nation today. For that, we salute you, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Fire Nation. Today's Value Bomb content was brought to you by Jeremy. And Fire Nation, what can 3,000 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs teach you? How about how to achieve financial freedom and fulfillment? My first traditionally published book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, is a revolutionary 17-step roadmap that will lead you to the lifestyle that you've been dreaming about. This book took me 10 years of accumulating the genius of the world's top entrepreneurs, and you can get it all in one place when you visit uncommonsuccessbook.com. I'll catch you there or on the flip side. Still think you can create an online course the same way you did 5 years ago? Think again. Thinkific has looked at the top 20% of course creators to see what they're doing now to be so darn successful. Find out for yourself at thinkific.com/firetrends. Business Made Simple, hosted by Donald Miller, takes the mystery out of growing your business. Recent episodes like how to attract and retain top talent and how to make more money with your current products are straight fire. Listen to Business Made Simple wherever you get your podcasts.